Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are jumping right into the absolute heart of SAP Convergent Invoicing. We're talking about the Billable item class. Now, you can think of this as the architectural blueprint for every single transaction that flows through the system. And getting this blueprint right isn't just important, it's absolutely critical. We're about to show you exactly why.
So, here's the journey we're going on today. First up, we're going to define the blueprint itself, what a bit class really is. Then, we're going to follow a transaction on its life cycle through the system. After that, we'll peek under the hood at the data structure, and finally, we'll connect all the dots to see how it integrates with the bigger picture.
All right, let's kick things off at the very beginning. If you really want to get a handle on convergent invoicing, you have to understand its most fundamental building block. And that is, of course, the billable item class.
So what is it exactly? Well, a billable item class, or bit class for short, is basically the DNA of any charge. It's the master template that lays out every single piece of information for a chargeable event. We're talking a mobile data session, a monthly subscription fee, you name it. It's got the amount, the currency, the quantity, tax details, literally everything needed for billing.
And that blueprint analogy, it's spot on. The BIT class is what makes sure that every single charge, whether it's a reoccurring subscription or a one-off usage event, is structured in a consistent way. This is what guarantees the billing system can actually understand it and process it correctly every single time.
So, we've got our blueprint. An item gets created based on that design, but then what? It doesn't just sit there, right? Nope. It starts a whole journey through the system, and that's exactly what we're going to follow now.
And that leads us to a really key question. Every single billable item moves through a series of statuses, and each one of those statuses tells a story about where it is in the process. Understanding this life cycle is so important for everything from tracking your revenue to troubleshooting when things go wrong.
So this is what we call the happy path. An item starts its life as raw. It's brand new, just arrived, and it needs to be checked. Once it's validated, it becomes billable, which means it's sitting there ready for the billing engine to pick it up. After the billing run happens, its status flips to billed. And finally, once it makes its way onto an invoice that goes to the customer, it's officially invoiced. Each step is a crucial checkpoint.
Now, let's get a little technical for a second. These statuses aren't just labels. They actually correspond to specific database tables. Raw items, they land in tables that end in _1 IT. Billable items are in tables with _2 IT. And all the processed items end up in tables with a _3 IT suffix. This separation is a lifesaver for developers who need to trace how data is flowing and figure out what went wrong.
Okay, but what happens when the happy path isn't so happy? Understanding this is vital. If you do a reversal, you're just undoing the billing document. Simple. The original item just goes back to being billable again, ready for the next billing cycle. But an exception is a much bigger deal. It doesn't just reverse the billing, it also moves the item to an accepted status, effectively pulling it out of the billing cycle for good unless someone manually fixes and restores it.
Okay, so we've seen the life cycle. Now let's peel back the curtain a little bit. How do we actually build one of these blueprints from scratch? Let's dive into configuring the data structure of a BIT class.
The way you build a bit class is by activating what are called interface components. Think of them like predefined blocks of fields that SAP provides. You just pick and choose what you need. Need to store tax info? Just activate the tax component. Handling credit card payments? Yep, activate the payment component. It's a really neat modular way to build your transactions data structure.
The configuration process itself is pretty logical. First, you create the standard class by picking your interface components. Second, you hit Generate, and SAP goes and builds all the database tables for you in the background. And then, finally, you can add your own company-specific custom fields. You always build the standard part first.
So, where do those custom fields live? Well, they get added to what are called include structures, and they have a very clear naming convention. For instance, a custom field for, say, a sales region, which isn't standard, might go into the _IT include. Payment stuff goes into _PY, and tax fields go into _TX. It keeps everything super organized and lets you extend the structure without ever touching core SAP code.
So we have our blueprint, and we know its life cycle. But a blueprint is pretty useless without instructions for the construction crew, right? How does the BIT class actually connect to the rest of the system and get processed?
This is where something called the processing rule comes into play. It is the absolute critical link that takes your BIT class, your blueprint, and connects it to a subprocess. This is the connection that tells the billing engine exactly what to do with any items created from this blueprint.
And the subprocess is the key to keeping things separate. By assigning different BIT classes to different subprocesses, you can tell the system to create separate billing documents for different services. This is how you can bill for mobile data usage on one document and a recurring monthly fee on another, even when it's for the very same customer. Now, for any kind of usage-based scenario, the link to SAP Convergent Charging, or CC, is essential. CC is where things like data usage get rated in real time. Over in CC, you have a charged item class that defines the data structure. That structure is then mapped over to our billable item class in Convergent Invoicing. This mapping ensures a perfect, seamless flow of data from rating all the way to billing. But what if the data you're getting from your source system is incomplete? Well, Convergent Invoicing has this incredibly powerful feature called enrichment. Developers can actually write custom code that intercepts an item as it's being created. This code can add or change information, like looking up a customer's sales region or adding a product ID, before that item is ever even saved to the database. It's a real game changer.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. We've seen the whole journey, from the blueprint's design all the way through to processing. So now consider this. What happens if a single field is misconfigured in a BIT class that handles millions of transactions every single day? How could that one tiny error in the blueprint ripple out and impact millions in revenue? It really goes to show just how critical getting this foundation right truly is.